Right, let's talk about the other match a little bit then. Because as I say, the other match is interesting to me because, let's be real, one of these teams is probably going to finish top 3 in this split. But at the beginning of the split, I think a lot of people were out on both. Would have just said that these are borderline playoff teams, or, they're going to be the teams that get disappointed and don't go to Worlds. But if you look at the split so far, they've both had, quite frankly, contextually, fantastic runs. Like the Misfits team, I do notice everyone, listen, when they started to drop off, it made sense. It reminded me of in the spring of this year in LCS, the storyline with 100 Thieves, where because they'd kept the main core of the Golden Guardians team, unsurprisingly, they started the split stronger than other people did, but then they fell off when the other teams got good. Well, Misfits kept the exact same lineup from spring, so it makes sense that they wouldn't need the same ramp-up time. But everyone wanted, I could tell, Zabatine to be like, yeah, but that's the only reason they were good. They're going to fall off now. They're going to be shit. Like, dude, they're still winning games. They're still beating some top teams. So what do you think of Misfits overall at the moment?
I'm personally working with the mid laner, Vitio. So, I mean, I've seen him, and I know like he has probably the best work ethics of any player I've been working with since I've started coaching in 2017. The guy is playing 12 games a day, regardless of like whether it's raining, snowing, or anything. Like he just goes back home and plays. I feel like the individual level of players in Misfits is very underestimated because the brand Misfits doesn't have a name as a top team. So when you're playing for Misfits, it doesn't show. But I'm pretty sure that these players, especially the tough, like I would say the upper part of the map, like Hirit, Razork, Vitio, they are very, very good at the game, much better than what people think they are. And they've been putting time, and it shows. And that's the thing. It's like, you're not a top team if you don't beat the top teams, but you're part of the top teams if you can beat all the weak teams. And that's exactly what Misfit has been doing the whole split. And they have like hoopsies here and there. But people say they stole the game from G2. And they had a game close to winning against Rogue, and they just made one mistake that cost them the game, and it was like, oh, they can't beat top teams. And then they beat G2 on a very decisive call late in the game, and they say they robbed G2. So when you're the lower level teams, like in terms of hype, when you're beating the strong teams, you're stealing. But if you get stolen by your top team, then you're not good enough, right? So the storyline is always against Misfits, no matter what. I feel like I count on them on being better than what people expect. I would still say that Fnatic on the direct matchup has shown a better dynamic recently. And it goes back to your point of building teams, right? Because you had a roster with Selfmade and Bwipo, and you were like, oh, it's going to be very hard to improve position per position. And then you switch Bwipo, a guy that is completely known, like in the whole West, to be one of the smartest brain about the game and knows how to win a game, making decisive play, even if he has to die for it. And you put him with Adam, a guy that will take ownership on like any type of failure and works harder than pretty much anyone, going back as well on the point of Wunder, and makes the edge from playing a little bit more the game. And you have a team that were upset that never really dare to play Kalista, which a champion is known for in solo queue. Now he's playing it on stage, and everybody's saying the atmosphere in the team is wonderful. Niski is playing for the jungle, and there is this kind of feeling that this team is never going to stop improving. So I would say in terms of dynamic, I would give the edge to Fnatic, but right now, so maybe in 3 weeks from now, Fnatic will have a definitive edge on Misfits, but at the moment, right now, I would say that it's a very, very 50-50 game, and it's really gonna depend on the draft. So, like Misfits, like I see the odds, and I feel like for me it's a pure 50-50. Like it's very, very hard to decide. So my heart goes to Misfits. I would say Misfits, but any Fnatic fan can vote for Fnatic and feel like confident about it.
Yeah, I think your point about Misfits is a very good one, because that's actually a really great way to phrase it as well, mate, because I've seen that happen many, many times. It often happens, by the way, with the team that's like 4th or 5th best. I mean, if you go back in time, people can think like Splice used to be like this, the one with Kobe and Vizicachi. It was the same thing. You knew they would beat pretty much anyone below them. They were just actually a better team. But if they played against like G2, you'd pretty much bet on G2 every time. It almost didn't matter. Like you just knew, even psychologically, they probably had more of a weakness against them. It does seem like Misfits is in that boat. Like if people don't know, even though they've lost 5 games, 2 were to Rogue, who are basically the best team in the league. 1 was to G2. And 1 was to Mad Lions, current champions, and then the other one was the Astralis one. And the Astralis one, I don't even actually blame them that much for, because Astralis has stolen a lot of really weird games this split. Like they've just had almost everyone they've been able to play like a way better than you'd expect in the match. Like regardless of the draft, the players, like they're just that team that's getting the random wins or somewhere. So I actually kind of feel like that's why the the one that they play at the end against Fnatic is a big deal. Because if they win that, they'll have beaten Fnatic twice, and it'll basically only be G2 and Rogue that anyone can even make that claim about. And if you're the third best team, you're already in a fucking great spot. Like, you are legit at that point in time.
If they win today and they win one of the two games that follows, they're in the upper bracket of the playoffs. And I mean, if you're in the upper bracket of the playoff, then you're 2 series away of actually going to Worlds.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, and it's on the D-Day, because if you think about the old Misfits, right, the 2017 one, nobody would ever expect them to actually beat Fnatic in BO5 and actually qualify. It was with Maxlor, Alfari, Power Fivo, Hensama, and I don't remember, and Ignaria. Thank you. So it's like it's on the day, right? A BO5 you play it in one day, not like in few weeks. You don't need like to practice. It's if you're in shape and you have the right draft, like 2 days from that point, after winning these 2 games, they might actually take the train to World. So I don't count them out. I know that everybody wants to count them out because nobody wants to like erase, cross and the name of G2, Fnatic, Rogue, or Mad Lions.
Yes.
So they have, as a consequence or as a side effect, they have to get rid of Misfits. So nobody on the broadcast, nobody ever is going to mention that Misfits can do it. But in 2017, nobody ever thought about it, and they did it. So I will be a Misfits supporter and would say let's hope, because I think it's healthy for that a rookie, like a mid laner rookie, will actually go into this top 3 and show that like the new generation is coming. Same for Adam in Fnatic.
I also think as well, like a factor that people don't talk about. It's weird because whenever people have, whichever team people talk about, they always have the couple of names they always focus on a lot. And then there's some that sort of like get left out. So what's weird is I notice everyone goes crazy, obviously, for Vethio because he's had such amazing like carry performances. But the player I've been like really pleasantly surprised by is Razork. Like, he was good in Misfits, I mean, now it'd be like over a year ago, I think. Like, yeah, that's about a spring split of last year, I remember, was the one where him and Febevan was sort of popping off. But aside from that, like, even when this guy came into LEC, I kept getting told that he just basically just camps for the Milicia guy in ERLs. He's just going to be like a fucking ward bot like type jungler. Dude, this guy's showing some very legit skills. Like, I would even say if they win more games, he's probably an MVP candidate this split.
Yeah, I actually think he's the best player of Misfits in terms of consistency. Like, I've seen peak performance from VTO on some games. I've seen very, very good games from Fairy, even from Kobe. But the man that always enabled, like, if you look at Misfits game, they pretty much get always the lead. Like, the first move always belongs to Misfits. And you have to give the props, right? Like, laners do their job. But even in Rogue, you don't see that much proactivity in terms of like jungle pathing, creative ganking. He really like finds the right angles. And I'm pretty sure, like, I would be very surprised not to see Razork secure himself a top team at some point in his career, whether it's in Europe or anywhere else on the planet. And I'm pretty sure he's a much better player than what people think. Like, I would say the 2 players that are actually like helping a lot their side lanes are Vithio and Razork, because Vithio has been playing with Tinks last year.
Right.
So, and Tinks is a very selfish jungle. So Vithio has learned the game competitively because he's only playing since 2 years in competitive. So he's been learning the competitive game for the jungle. And both of them play very well together. And then you have really good side laners that know how to convert resources. So that's why I feel like it's very, like, I don't like the fact that there is no storyline about Razork, because obviously Vithio is going to do, and I mean, I'm working for him. I really like the guy, but doing a quadrical on Akali is extremely hard, but finding consistent openings in enemy defenses when you're playing against G2, Mad Lions, Rogue, as a jungle is something that needs to be spoken about, because it's extremely hard, and pretty much nobody else in the league does that.
Yeah, I also think as well, bearing in mind it's so often rookies in the mid lane that we have come in LEC. That's probably the most underrated aspect, is what is their synergy like with their jungler? Because you see the players that go to the teams, XL, SK, there's a reason some of these players struggle, in my opinion, is they probably don't have the ideal jungler for them, or maybe this is actually another mistake with when you recruit people, rookies, purely on mechanics. Maybe you got a super sick player, but maybe he doesn't fit the style of your team. Maybe your team can't play around him, or you can't play for a specific role, like you're saying here. That's also the part I noticed that got really misunderstood. Dude, that's what, just as a sidebar, because we've got time, that's one of the things I found really suspicious during that whole SK thing at the beginning of the split. You know, when they were talking about how the reason they'd made those changes is because Tinks couldn't play the style that they wanted, and, you know, Treats was going to do a better job, and blah, 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 all this stuff, right? What I don't get about that is, like, I remember watching Tinks in the RLs. It's like, that was never a player that you looked at and you were like, right, this is like a genius jungler who can do everything. And it's like, no, he was always like a very, like, I mean, it sounds harsh to say limited, but he was very good within those limits. Like, if you had the right team for him, he was obviously banging on that LDLC team. It's always weird to me when people sort of like, their eye test for what they take from the player isn't sort of the tendencies of the player. Because I'm always trying to do, like, you know, the scouting report style, like, prefers this, doesn't like this as much. Some people seem to just take them almost as though it was like FIFA and they have the fucking overall, oh, he's a 94, like, it's a 94, but you know what I mean? Like, it's always some absolute rating system or something. Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.